Hi, I'm Amelia. I'm 28 years old, and if you're watching this, it's probably because you've been through something painful, something that makes you question everything you thought you knew. I wish I could say this story is fiction, but it's painfully real. It's the story of betrayal, heartbreak, and how one moment can shatter years of trust. It all happened on what should have been one of the happiest days of my life. My best friend, Rachel, was glowing. Her baby shower was at this beautiful garden venue on the outskirts of the city. Soft pastel balloons hung from trees, the scent of flowers filled the air, and guests milled around laughing, sipping mimosas, and sharing heartfelt advice for motherhood. I had spent the past month helping her plan every detail, from picking decorations to curating the perfect playlist. It was, after all, her first baby, and she was like a sister to me. I wore a soft cream dress with lace details, and my hair was curled loosely at the ends. I smiled at everyone, hugged old friends, and even danced a little when the music picked up. My husband, Daniel, stood by my side at first, cracking jokes and keeping me laughing. He had always been the life of the party, or so I thought. As the afternoon wore on, I stepped outside to catch some fresh air. The garden was quiet, away from the chatter, and I leaned against a wooden fence, taking deep breaths. That's when I felt him behind me. Daniel. He didn't say anything at first, just stood there awkwardly. I turned, smiling, expecting him to say something sweet. But instead, his eyes looked away, and he leaned closer, his lips barely moving. I've been seeing her, he whispered. For a split second, I froze. My ears refused to register the words. Seeing her? What? My best friend? Impossible. I'm done with you, he said, barely above a breath. Everything inside me went cold. I stared at him, unable to speak. His eyes didn't meet mine, not even once. He looked at the ground, as if ashamed, or maybe relieved. Daniel, I tried, but my voice cracked. He shook his head, avoided my eyes, and walked away before I could say another word. The garden, the decorations, the smiling faces inside, they blurred. I stood there, heart racing, unable to move. My best friend's laughter floated from inside, so carefree, so trusting. That's when I knew my life would never be the same. I still remember the smell of vanilla cupcakes and fresh flowers that filled the living room that afternoon. It was supposed to be one of the happiest days of my life, my best friend Mia's baby shower. Everyone was laughing, clinking glasses, and sharing memories about motherhood. The pastel decorations, soft music, and warm hugs made the whole room feel like a dream. I was wearing a light lavender dress that I loved, and my hair curled softly around my shoulders. I kept checking on Mia, making sure she felt special. She squeezed my hand and whispered, "Amelia, I couldn't have done this without you." I smiled, feeling proud, fulfilled. This was friendship at its best. But just when I thought everything was perfect, he sat next to me. Mark. My husband. My rock. Or so I believed. He leaned toward me under the noise of laughter, as if the words were too heavy to say out loud. His eyes wouldn't meet mine. His lips trembled as he whispered, low and deliberate. I've been seeing her. I'm done with you. For a second, the world stopped. The music in the background went silent. The voices blurred into a hollow buzz. My heartbeat surged in my ears so loud I couldn't hear anything else. I stared at him, frozen, confused, betrayed. I thought I misheard him. Maybe it was a cruel joke. Maybe I'd dreamt it. But his eyes, they didn't lie. I felt my stomach drop. My fingers went cold. I wanted to scream, but the sound stuck in my throat. I turned my head slowly to look at him again. He looked away. No apology. No regret. I gripped my glass so tightly the edges dug into my palms. Mia's laughter echoed from across the room, totally unaware of what had just shattered my world. I excused myself, walking toward the restroom with shaky legs. I locked the door and leaned against it, gasping for breath like I'd been underwater too long. Tears blurred my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I splashed cold water on my face and stared at myself in the mirror. My eyes were red, my lips trembling. But there was something else, a spark. A fire I hadn't felt before. I wasn't going to let this define me. When I stepped back into the room, everyone smiled, asking if I was all right. I gave them a small, controlled smile. No one could see the storm brewing beneath the surface. Mark sat quietly at the far end of the table, eyes downcast, while other guests carried on around him, unaware that a marriage had just crumbled. That night, after everyone left, I sat alone in our bedroom. He avoided my eyes and mumbled about how things had changed, how he couldn't live a lie. He begged for forgiveness, but I didn't let him finish. I picked up my phone and opened a blank note. I typed one line. I deserve better. And just like that, I made a promise to myself, I wasn't going to break. I would rise, rebuild, and reclaim my life. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I was ready to walk it, one step at a time. For days after that moment at Mia's baby shower, I couldn't eat, sleep, or even breathe properly. My mind kept replaying his words over and over, I've been seeing her. I'm done with you. It didn't matter that everyone else smiled, laughed, or congratulated Mia. I felt like I was disappearing right there, like I was fading away. At first, I just cried. I cried until my eyes were swollen and my pillow was wet. I would sit on the bathroom floor for hours, staring at the tile, unable to move. Every time I looked in the mirror, I didn't recognize the woman staring back at me, the same eyes, but filled with pain and confusion. I kept asking myself how it happened. How could someone I loved so deeply betray me? How could he choose another woman over me, especially on the one day that was supposed to celebrate family and joy? The worst part was the silence. He wasn't even ashamed. He didn't cry. He didn't apologize. He just looked at me with that blank expression, as if he had already made up his mind and all I could do was accept it. But slowly, something shifted inside me. I didn't want to scream. I didn't want to yell or throw things. I wanted to feel in control again. I wanted to be more than the heartbroken wife everyone would pity. So I decided I wasn't going to give him the satisfaction of watching me fall apart. I began focusing on myself, on small things. I went for long walks when the house felt too heavy. I wrote in a journal every night, pouring everything out without worrying about how messy it sounded. I started exercising again, just to feel stronger, to feel like I still had power over my own life. I didn't talk about it to anyone except in the smallest ways. I didn't tell my family or friends everything, only little bits, just enough so they'd notice but not enough that they could fix it for me. I wanted to face this on my own terms. In the quiet moments, I'd sit on the couch and think about what I wanted next. Was it forgiveness? Was it leaving? I didn't know. But one thing was certain, I wasn't going to let this destroy me. I kept asking myself how I could rebuild. Not by acting out or doing something reckless, but by becoming stronger, smarter, and more aware of who I was and what I deserved. For the first time, I started imagining a life where I wouldn't need him at all. It was a slow process, day by day, thought by thought, but I could feel myself rising from the ashes. The hurt was still there, sharp and raw, but it wasn't all I was anymore. I didn't know where this path would lead, but I knew one thing: I would take it on my own terms. And that's exactly what I planned to do. I didn't want to shout or make a scene. I knew that would give him control, that he'd feel powerful by watching me crumble. So instead, I decided to quietly rebuild my life, piece by piece, while letting him see it all unfold. The first thing I did was move out. I didn't announce it to anyone with drama or tears. I packed what I needed, left a note on the kitchen counter that simply said, "Take care of yourself," and walked out. It felt strange at first, the silence, the empty apartment, the stillness where his presence used to be. But with each passing day, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I painted the walls myself, picked out new furniture, and filled the space with things that made me smile. I cooked meals I loved, played music loud enough to feel alive, and slept without fear of someone's footsteps pacing outside the door. Then I focused on work. I had always loved my career but had let it slide while I cared for our home. Now I poured myself into it. I signed up for courses, attended networking events, and even started freelance projects on the side. Slowly, opportunities opened up. I landed a position that paid more than I'd ever dreamed of, and with it came the confidence I'd been missing. The next step wasn't something I planned, it just happened. One evening, while scrolling through social media, I saw him. There he was, laughing with her. The woman he had left me for. For a second, my heart clenched. I felt the same pain rising again, but I didn't let it take over. I scrolled past and kept going with my evening. A few weeks later, they posted pictures together at fancy restaurants, vacations, smiling into each other's arms. But then something else caught my eye. A comment someone had left, half joking but revealing more than they probably meant to. "Hope you don't regret this." It felt like fate had placed the final piece in front of me. I didn't confront him directly. Instead, I let him live in his illusion, while quietly building a life that he couldn't even dream of disrupting. I started hosting events at my apartment, simple get-togethers at first, then larger gatherings. Friends from work, neighbors, people I hadn't seen in years. The atmosphere was warm, inviting, and full of laughter. I made sure my life was so full of joy and connection that any thought of loneliness or bitterness couldn't stay. The final twist came one evening at a charity gala. I was dressed in an elegant but understated black dress, confident and radiant. I walked through the room and overheard someone mention him. "He's been stuck in this relationship for months," they said. "She's controlling, he looks miserable." I smiled and kept walking. I didn't have to say a word. I didn't have to tear him down or fight. The fact that I had moved on, with grace, strength, and happiness, spoke louder than any argument ever could. Later that night, I stood alone on the balcony, glass of wine in hand, looking out at the city lights. I felt free. For the first time in months, I wasn't consumed by pain or heartbreak. I wasn't waiting for him to come crawling back or hoping he'd regret what he'd done. I had created something new for myself, something built on my own strength. The best revenge, I realized, wasn't drama or yelling. It was rising above it, turning hurt into power, sorrow into purpose. And from that night forward, I knew I didn't need him anymore. It's been a year since that night, the night everything changed. I can honestly say, I've never felt stronger. People often ask me, "Aren't you angry?" or "Don't you want revenge?" And I always smile because the truth is, I had already gotten it. I learned that revenge doesn't always come in shouting matches or tearful confrontations. It's in the quiet choices you make every day. It's in deciding to show up for yourself, to create a life that's beautiful, fulfilled, and whole, without waiting for anyone else to hand it to you. I still think about him sometimes, but now it's with compassion, not bitterness. He chose his path, and I chose mine. I realized that love doesn't make you weak. Love should empower you, not cage you. I rebuilt friendships I had neglected. I started therapy and learned to face my feelings instead of running from them. I traveled, something I never thought I'd do on my own, and with every new city, I felt a little freer. More than anything, I discovered that I didn't need anyone to define who I am. My worth isn't tied to a husband, a relationship, or anyone's approval. It's something I carry inside, something that no betrayal can steal. If I could give one piece of advice to anyone going through something like this, it would be this. Take the heartbreak and turn it into fuel. Let it teach you patience, self-love, and resilience. Don't rush to prove something to others. Instead, build yourself quietly, with grace and strength, until they see you shining brighter than ever. And when they do, let them wonder how you did it. Because sometimes, the most powerful revenge is living your best life, unapologetically, fiercely, and on your own terms.